Welcome to Your Wellness MD podcast. This is where family physician and wellness expert Dr. Daniela Stein and her life coach sister JB share holistic solutions for your everyday health and wellness challenges. We explore the connection between a healthy body, mind, and soul, and share tips that will enable you to thrive. Thanks for joining us today.
Good day. I'm JB, your Wellness MD podcast host. It's almost the end of 2021. Never in my life have I seen a year fly past with such speed.
Hi, from Dr. Daniela Stein. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you for your support this year. This is our 14th podcast. And we've received such wonderful feedback and interaction from you, our listeners.
Yes, thank you. I hope you have found some pointers from our discussions and were able to implement them in your life as you work to achieve your wellness goals.
I'm happy that we're having one last discussion before this year is out. Today, we are chatting about New Year's resolutions. Should we make them or not? And if we decide to make them, how do we ensure that we stick to them? We don't want to set ourselves up for failure. We want to set ourselves up for success. How do we do that? And then we'll also chat about some ideas for New Year's resolutions that will ensure that you have a healthier and happier 2022.
Mark Twain said that he could help anyone achieve almost anything. Problem is, most people are not clear about what they want. I remember a conversation with Mom when I was about 11 or 12 years old, where she explained to me why it is so important to have goals. Jeanette, she said, if you reach for the sun with all your might, you might end up on the moon. But if you reach for the moon, chances are you will probably end up somewhere here on Earth. I still think of those words often. I believe that people with goals and big goals go places and those without goals don't. I've certainly seen it in my own life. When I have a goal and I go for it, I tend to achieve it, or a version of it, at least. When I don't have a specific goal, not that much happens. Life just happens.
And in order to get those goals, you really have to stand back and have a little bit of big picture thinking to see your life. And we've spoken to this before. You can use that end of life glasses that you can put on and say, where do you see yourself at the end of your life? What is your bigger picture? And it's so important to have that helicopter vision, that bigger picture, before you just make short-term goals for yourself. And then there's also a difference between goals and New Year's resolutions. And specifically what we're talking about, New Year's resolutions now. What does this mean to you, JB?
Well, I feel that goals are where you want to go. It's a target. A resolution is a promise to yourself of actual tangible things you want to do to help you get closer to your goal. As for example, you might have a goal to be healthy, but in order to be healthy, you need to eat healthier and exercise more. A resolution can then be to add greens to your meals or exercise 3 times per week. I've always been a New Year's resolution type of person. As you know, we grew up like that. Every Christmas, when we were together, we would sit down as a family, and every family member would state what they were grateful for in the previous year, and then what their challenges or priorities or goals are for the next year. I've written New Year's resolutions every year of my life since I was about 16 years old. And I continuously rediscover them in old journals and notebooks. And they serve as a wonderful reminder of what is really important to me. And with some, I've been more successful than with others. For example, reading The Economist once a month is an example of one that continues to reappear some years and one that I'm not very successful with.
You know what? So now, for the first time, I understand now why you've subscribed me to The Economist. Sometimes for Christmas gift, you'll subscribe me to The Economist. Now I know why.
Yeah, well, I don't even want to go down that
It's good. It's good.
Tangent. No, but as you know, I did my master's in journalism, and I remember my professor, Professor George Claassen, said, "Don't expect to write well, write good journalism if you don't read good journalism." And to be honest, most of the things that we read on our phones are not good journalism. A lot of it's written by bots. And he mentioned, like, even Time magazine, he did not see as good journalism. So that is for me to elevate my level. I need to get that input. But that's one of those goals that I've not been super successful with. But
then getting back to what you said is over Christmas, how our dad would write down our gratitude list for things that happened this year, and then
every year
for things going forward. That's where we learn to journal. And now in medicine and in coaching, we know how important journaling is. There's no so much science backing how important it is to journal. So I believe that's a very good exercise for our listeners, even if people feel a bit reluctant to jump all the way to making resolutions, is to start off by journaling, to write down a little bit of a narrative, where you came from, where you are, where you want to be, to be a bit reflective, to really embrace this time of the year, to reflect and to pause and to journal. And then after you journaled, JB, how do you feel about New Year's resolutions?
As I mentioned, I've always been a big New Year's resolution person. I've been setting them since I was 16 years old.
So it's something that works for you.
But that's who I am. But I know many people, many people, like even my husband, when I discuss the content of this podcast with him, he's like, no, you should always be doing the things you want to do. You don't need it to set New Year's resolutions. So some people are not necessarily that much into it. I think whether you set them or not, it is important to be kind to yourself. Acknowledge where you are in your life and give yourself grace. What I love about New Year's resolutions is that it gives you a fresh start, a blank page that we get to write on. You can turn your back on the previous year. It's behind you, in the past, and you can look forward towards the sun. I believe there are a few guidelines to keep in mind in order to set goals that are attainable, because that's sometimes
important. But that's important. You don't want to write a list of New Year's goals where, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. I'm going to eat only veggies, and set yourself up for failure, because our goal is not to feel like a failure a week or down the street. That will hinder us from putting up resolutions next year.
Exactly. So for me, the first guideline is set attainable goals. And a different way of looking at it is chunk your goals. In my grade 12, German teacher taught us about eating the elephant one bite at a time. You can't memorize 1,000 German words overnight. So memorize one a day. So goals.
I know that analogy in terms of running. So running a marathon, we would say you take it one step at a time. So when you do run that marathon or ultra marathon, you don't think about all the hills. You just think about the next step. And what's your next step?
I think that's a great example. And it might be for a person that wants to run a marathon. I'm going to run 3 times a day, 3 times a week. I'm going to run 2 miles, whatever it is. But set those smaller, more attainable goals. You need to make it achievable.
Rather than saying that you're going to lose 20 pounds in 2022, you're going to say that you make healthier choices. You're going to maybe lose a pound every month or a pound and a half every month. And how are you going to do that? So we're again moving away from that restrictive thing, I have to lose weight. You would rather phrase it as, I'm going to be healthier by making healthier choices, by filling my day with healthy foods. So to always be focusing on the positive rather than just the restrictive or the negative part.
Yeah, and making it specific. So I'm going to be healthier, but I'm going to introduce veggies every day. So to make it very specific. And the second guideline is to ensure your you prioritize your resolutions.
Now, see, and I've done both. I've done it. I remember when I'm on holidays with you and you sit throughout midnight and just journaling. I would spend the time with you and I'll write pages full of resolutions. And then I've also had times when I would just have one or two or three things, that I'm going to focus on for the next year. And I've had both, but I think for me personally, it's better to just focus on less things, maybe 3 or 4 things, but to write it down so that I can track my progress during the year against what I wrote down.
Yeah, I think that is important. Having fewer resolutions help you prioritize. Mm-hmm. So I just think it's critical to prioritize. If you do want more than 3 resolutions, go for it. Just ensure that you put them in order of priority, and then you can easily focus on the top 3. And I believe,
so that it doesn't overwhelm you.
Exactly. From experience, you shouldn't overwhelm yourself. And because you're not going to push through if you feel overwhelmed. Simplicity is key to execution. And if you set only 1, 2, or 3 goals, it's a good idea to write them down or print them out and put them up in a few spots where they interrupt you. Just leaving them in a book, notebook, or on your phone might not be optimal to ensure execution.
Yes, and that's what we say, that many people don't have great experiences with New Year's resolutions just because they felt previously they didn't stick to them. So when you do have those goals that you're talking about, you can see it as something that you're going to work on continuously during the year. It's not a goal or a resolution that you're going to fail at. It's rather a goal or a guide that's going to guide you through the year.
I think that's a very valid way of thinking. That's why I believe the 3rd guideline is so critical. You have to revisit them frequently. I really like the first of the month cadence. Every first day of the month, you pull out your annual resolutions, you reevaluate them. Are they still the right resolutions? Have you made progress? What can you do to ensure they become top of mind again?
I like that. It's more practical. It's more attainable. And then you could also put reminders on your calendar. We have in our kitchen a big family calendar, so maybe I could add that onto a big calendar where everyone sees it, to re-energize my own commitment to that goal.
I love that. And you also make it a family affair. And then the last pointer is, it's important to celebrate the small wins.
Oh, yes.
If your goal is to start meditating, like was one of my goals this year, celebrate yourselves when you've done it for 3 days in a row. 3 days of meditation is way better than no meditation.
And to define success for yourself, I feel that is so important, to have your own definition of success. I've often felt, I'm an avid swimmer, and my dream has always been to swim the English Channel. But now there's people who swam it 4 times back to back. So I will never be successful in the world's terms. I must just be successful in my own terms, have my own definition. And I would like to encourage our listeners to really define success for themselves so that you can celebrate your own success. We don't have to be successful in the eyes of the world. You just need that success in your own eyes.
Absolutely. I think that's very well said. And it's important to ensure that at least one of your goals is easy to attain. In order for you to be able to celebrate yourself, and that will give you momentum to work on the others.
Yes, and you can maybe, if there are some of our listeners who's never made any New Year's resolutions, to try it out this year. It might be a great idea to make New Year's resolutions, but to take a couple of days before that, or maybe you'll only have a couple of hours before that, to reflect, to think about your own values, to think, where do you want to be a year from now, to make this really a reflective exercise.
Yeah, and there's not much time, like you said, but it's just important to remember the big picture of your life And then that will guide you to where are those small things I can ensure I do to make me healthy and happy. So most people, when you ask them, they will tell you that their life goal is to be healthy and happy.
Yes.
And if that is your life goal and you don't usually make resolutions, I have 3 that I can recommend. Now, it can include everything under the sun, from relationship, health, fitness, career, financial resolutions, and it's really different for every individual. As we think about the macroeconomic and other drivers in 2021, I believe there are 3 types of goals that everyone should have. These are factors that will aid us in 2022. And these 3 are health, firstly, managing technology, and then what I call say it now, which is expressing appreciation, gratitude, and kindness to others. Now, let's start with the first one, health. We've spoken a ton about health this past year. If you ask anyone what their life goal is, as I mentioned, most people say, I'd love to be happy and healthy.
Yeah.
Anyone suffering from a health ailment will know that there is freedom in living healthy and pain-free. I believe everyone should have a health goal. I've had many years where I had, for example, eat no processed food or sugars as one of my resolutions. I've never attained it 100%. And what I've learned in the process is that it's more effective to add versus eliminating. For example, having a goal of eating more healthy foods versus avoiding sugary foods. Dr. D, will you share a couple of suggestions with us of ways in which we can be healthier? And then my recommendation is to our listeners, just pick one. And once that's become a habit, you can add another.
And this looks so different for so many people. It depends where you are in your journey. You know, some of my clients work at eating 9 cups of leafy greens every day. But then to most other people, that would be very daunting to eat 9 cups of leafy greens in one day. You know, to you, it might just be to add a salad to every meal, or to have veggie sticks with every meal, or instead of having a sugary drink, to replace that with water, or if you're used to drinking 3 cans of pop a day, to make that 1 can of pop. But to really be attentive and intentional about those health habits. If you haven't identified health as being important to you, you won't be making those changes. And then once you have identified that my health is important, and you've identified things that you are doing to unhealthy lifestyle choices that you are making, you can replace those ones. And it's different. It might be just going for a walk. It might be spending more time with friends who choose more healthy lifestyles. I
like that. So basically most of the ideas you gave is around nutrition. So as you think about health goals, considering a goal around nutrition, I think is
to me, nutrition and health is hand in hand, right? To me, it's almost like the same thing. But you're right. Health, no, you are right. Health is more than that. So it could be going for that walk every day, or
so moving more.
So if you are walking your dog every day, to maybe walk your dog a little bit further, or go 3 times a day for a walk rather than once a day, or to sleep a little bit better, you know, to really identify what in your life is a area where you can improve.
Got it. And choosing one of those buckets, depending on what is dominant for you, whether it's nutrition, whether it's moving more, getting exercise, or whether it's taking care of your mental health, like sleeping.
Oh, that's
you just
a big one.
Now, the second, so this is the first bucket, health. The second one is managing the use of technology. I'm really passionate about that. There are a lot of articles I can recommend y'all to read, but of all the ways in which we can aim to achieve wellness and health, I am the most convinced that this is absolutely critical, because it's not something that we are very conscious about most of the time. Managing technology. I recently read a very interesting article in The Atlantic, the December issue of the 2021 Atlantic, by Ayad Akhtar. And I quote, "This careful unceasing, inhumanely," because it's often done by machines too,
I
inhumanely methodical curation of our pleasure principle becomes a larger force in our psyches as the devices, our phones, drip feed us incremental stimulation, which in turn becomes coextensive with the native ground of our very cognition. Now, there's a lot in there, and this is a long article, but it's basically how it's designed ultimately to make money, because everything we do on phone results in a lot of advertising income. But it's designed so your experience with your phone is not the one dictating what's happening. It's really all happening on a subconscious level. So I'm just going to read that sentence again. This careful, unceasing, inhumanely methodical curation of our pleasure principle becomes a larger force in our psyches as our devices drip feed us incremental stimulation, which in turn becomes coextensive with the native ground of our very cognition. We may not notice that there is less and less time passing between touches of the phone. Every 15 minutes? That was so 2018. We're in 2021. And the urge to reach out for our screen now feels like a rightful impatience with boredom of any sort. But that's not what it is. It's withdrawal.
And because I have little kids, I've been quite cognizant about leaving my cell phone in my purse at the front door to help me not to look at my phone. I don't have my notifications on, but still it does happen that I reach to my phone. And we've said it on the show before, not to have your phone in your bedroom. But even me, who are so aware and so cognizant of it, I do see how many hours I spend on my phone, even though I know it's not healthy, even though I know that it's stealing time away from my children, that it's stealing joy from my family. I get hooked in so easily. So I think it is so important to be conscious about that and intentional about the time we spend with our families versus the amount of time we spend on our phones.
Absolutely, because that little quote I reference alludes to is, it's a drag. And it's designed, it's very specifically designed that way. And you can read way more about it. Now, we are in this world. I mean, you can abandon your phone, but that's probably not very likely. I have a few recommendations of actions you can take, our listeners can take. And I mean, I include myself with those. I work on those 3 continuously to help you. If you think about it, when you're addicted to chocolates or another type of drug, you realize and you deal with it. But this is something that is so ingrained in everything we do that we need to raise our consciousness. So the first guideline pointer, it's the bedroom routine. I think this is really important. Aim to not have your phone in your bedroom, ever. The bedroom should be where you sleep, rest, and spend quality time with your partner. If you bring it in, aim to not have your phone at your bedside. Your phone should not be the last thing you look at the end of the day and the first thing you look at in the morning. Even if you're single, get a different alarm clock or put your phone in the bathroom or in the corridor. I've been doing this since 2015, inspired by Ariana Huffington, and it's been a game changer and still a continuous challenge. Sometimes I do stand in the bathroom on my phone for 20 minutes before I walk over to my bedroom. But I believe this is critical for long-term health because in 30 years, there will be studies about what harm this is doing to us. And the second guideline is to fast from social media for 24 hours. I challenge you to do it. Try it. And catch yourself how many times you're going to scroll to the apps within 24 hours. I bet you dozens of times. So yesterday, I fasted social media 4 times. I mean, I definitely fasted. I was 100% convinced I'm not going to touch social media yesterday. But 4 times I caught myself being in LinkedIn. I didn't want to, it just happened. I just did it. It's like I mentioned, if you think about other additives like caffeine, most people realize they need to limit it. And they have guidelines around how much they consume for themselves. And we need to do the same with social media.
And general phone time for me, it's not only social media, but also checking my work email, checking my personal email. And I have different work schedules. So I have my hospital work and I have my wellness clinic work. And then I have, all the emails we get from teachers. So social media is definitely one thing, but then also work. It is so easy to stay on your phone for hours and hours for work. So something that I've really found helpful is to have my cell phone in a specific spot that's nearby so I can hear it when it rings, the way a phone would ring. I'll use it for that, but I won't look at it, especially those hours that I spend with my kids when we're doing a craft, when we're spending family time together, to make sure that my cell phone doesn't steal away from my family time.
I think that is wonderful. And I need to start implementing that suggestion. And then,
because our kids know, right? Our kids know if we have our focus and our attention on them, or if we're still thinking about that email that you read 5 minutes ago and you're kind of thinking in your mind how you're going to answer that email, then you're not as intentional with your family, with your kids.
Absolutely. And the third resolution, like I said, the first one was around health. The second one is managing technology. And the third one is around expressing kindness, love, and gratitude towards those around us. And I am very passionate about this. I call it Say It Now. But let me tell you what it is. If there's one thing COVID taught us, it is that life is precious and short. It might not be short for us, but most people I know lost a loved one or someone close to them over the past year. So the time we have left to have an impact on others and show them appreciation might be short. We might not have tomorrow, and Say It Now is a challenge to identify people that you want to thank and share gratitude with now, in the next few weeks, months, and this year, as you don't know how much time you have left with them.
It sounds like this is very personal to you, JB. Why is it so important to you?
Sis, I've been very blessed, and a lot of people I know have lost multiple people around them. I just had 3 experiences this past year that made me realize that a very deliberate effort to add joy to other people's lives by expressing appreciation not only enrich their lives, but also your own life. And it ensures a life without regret. So the first one is, I just had somebody told me about a colleague who died. I did not work closely with him, but he was a recruitment agent initially when I was recruited from South Africa to come work in Chicago. And, I haven't spoken to him in a couple of years, maybe 2 years, but every time I would go to the Chicago office, I would go say hello, and he'd smile and he was a nice person to be around. He was nice to me. I wish in the last couple of years, I just reached out, sent him an email or a call and said, thank you for what you've meant to me. You made a difference in my life. I have another story. A good friend, when I lived in South Africa, my last role in South Africa, she sat next to me. She believed anything is possible. She gave me books to read, and that started changing my mind. I started realizing that anything is possible. I would at least every 1 or 2 months, I would think of her. But, I actually sent her a text in May just saying, you changed my life. Thank you for what you've meant. Teaching me about the law of attraction and things like that. She responded, and then 2 weeks later, she died.
Oh my goodness.
And I regret not telling her. Luckily, I sent her that one-liner. And then the third one was when my dad had a heart attack. It's just, life is precious. We have to tell people now. So what this is all about, it had a big impact on me. It is, my ask is identify people in all 3 buckets. People not close to you at all, first bucket, not close to you, just flowers on the path that you've been journeying on in life. The second bucket is people that you've had a closer connection with somewhere in your life, but most likely you're not on telephone call terms. A friend you had 8 years ago, a college friend, high school friend, and then those really close to you. And the goal is every week, express gratitude to at least one, not just a phone call, but do something that will mean a little more, like a handwritten note, or if you have the address, or just record a quick 20-second video that you can send via social media or an email. And my challenge to you is do it every single week. 52 people who you are going to make happy and enrich their lives in their 2022. You will definitely be happier as a result. And then if you get that call or they get that call, you won't regret it.
I love that. And it's so in keeping with what we teach our clients about gratitude, right? Having that gratitude journaling and gratitude list. And now you're extending it. So it's not just your own gratitude, but you're expressing that gratitude to other people as well. And I like the idea of creating that routine around it to remind yourself, every week, whether it's maybe a Sunday afternoon after lunch, to write down that person for that week, that person that you think about who you can express your gratitude to. Yes, I like that.
Yeah, so I want to thank you all for your time today. It was wonderful to spend some time. To summarize what we said today, you set goals, prioritize them, keep them tight, keep them short, and congratulate yourself with the small wins. And then if you need ideas of goals, types of goals to set, introduce one around your health, manage technology, setting a goal around that's really important, and then say it now. Identify those people you want to express gratitude to and do it now. Thank you for your time today. See you in 2022.
Thank you so much for spending time with us this year. We appreciate it. And we respond to each one of our listeners. Write to us. You can write to us on www.wellnessmdhealth.com. We respond to our listeners and we want to hear ideas from you. What do you want to hear about more in the next year? What topics you want for podcasts? We're so open to your suggestions and we love your feedback. Thank you so much. All the best for 2022 to all our listeners. Take care.
Take care.
Thanks for spending your time with your Wellness MD Doc Daniela and JB today. For more episodes, subscribe to our podcast. We would love to connect with you at info@wellnessmdhealth.com. And remember, you were created to thrive. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast.